So the new Gamergate's still going on strong, and boy, is it just a barrel of laughs, isn't it? But recently there have been some little snippets here and there. You get the dumbest takes from a lot of shit, but recently there has been with the release of the demo for the game Stellar Blade. If you don't know what that is, it's a Korean-based game. They basically, the company that made it, I think they're known for essentially only doing phone games, and then they're making Stellar Blade that basically blew up like crazy because of the fact that it's a game with an actual attractive female character in it. And this is generally the main reason as to why this game blew up as big as it did. This game was announced back in like when E3 was not dead. Um, ha, good times, right? And ironically enough, like right after this game was showcased, they showcased Forspoken. Good times, right? Uh, and now it essentially became this huge phenomenon, simply because of the fact that the character was attractive. Not because of the gameplay, mind you, or because of the game's actual overall appeal of essentially being like, oh, the next best thing. Talking too fast. Uh, but realistically, the gameplay that it showed was very much, it gave a lot of vibes similar to that of Bayonetta. With with the takedowns, the monsters as that's a complete contrast towards the main character being a very attractive female with sexualized parts and stuff like that. It gave Bayonetta vibes. So that's how I felt when I saw it, which isn't a bad thing, as I actually own a copy of Bayonetta and I enjoy that game. So it wasn't anything that was like, oh, like this is the biggest thing on the market to get, but it was a game that was like, well, this doesn't look bad at all, and honestly, it's quite appealing and very refreshing to the fact that you actually have an attractive female character. In within a game, starring in a game that you don't have anymore nowadays. So now with the demo that should be out by now, upon me making this video, you have Stellar Blade being the talk of the town, if you will, because of the fact that a majority of people are about to support this game simply because of the fact that it's going against the norm of what it is that's been currently happening within video games that essentially has led to the downfall of a bunch of different video game companies, studios, and what have you. Hell, case in point, Forspoken. That game did so terrible that the studio that was responsible for it got shut down. Same thing happened to the Volition that did Saints Row, and a lot of other studios that have basically made these ridiculous games with these ridiculous concepts and whatnot. Now, here's the iffy thing. Stellar Blade essentially has good gameplay. In fact, I've heard very positive reviews about its gameplay, and a lot of the info being spread around about Stellar Blade has mainly focused on the fact of the aspect of the attractiveness of the character. Yes, they use an actual real life female model to model the main character. Yes, she does have proportions that are that of what an actual human is capable of having. Yes, she's an attractive girl in its Korean studio. All this, they had women working on it that work within the studio. Blah 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 blah. All of these should be such non-fucking factors when you're dealing with a video game, which is what the problem is currently, is that this is the kind of stuff that gets hyper emphasized because of the fact that you don't see it. So I'm not someone that's in opposition against people supporting it because of the fact that the main character is attractive. No, because again, one of the reasons that it is getting as much attention as it's getting is because that's not a standard within the industry. The fact is that the standard is that you get the ugly bitches. So having an attractive character that people like to support or hyperemphasize because she's attractive, which would essentially engage with the consumers demanding that that be the norm for video games, which it used to be, and then essentially we return back to formula with that. I'm fine with that, but I'm also someone who has advocated that this is something that is a byproduct that has happened in like a multitude of different medias. It's the same thing for like movies, essentially being a hell of a lot like a lot of people liking movies that essentially are just really dumb and stupid. But it's like, since it's not the kind of movie that is like berating you with like woke nonsense or girl power and whatnot, you actually enjoy it. But my issue has always been with the fact that, yeah, you can still make your movie good, that isn't filled with the woke nonsense, but I still would like to have good special effects, well acting actors, fucking actually comprehensive story that is fun and engaging and very memorable. Instead, you get Fast X. You have people praising Spider-Man No Way Home when that movie is too stupid. But because the standards have dropped, you have essentially this opposition towards the progression of what it is that you're advocating for actually being better than that which was presented before. I hope I made sense. But it's just generally, yes, Stellar Blade, you could support it, you could love it, you could whatever with it. But realistically, Stellar Blade should be a game that came out and essentially people look at with a hit or miss. Because what it has in it, there's nothing new mechanic wise being thrown into it. It fights as if it's like from the demo and everything that a lot of people have stated and brought out. It plays and fights actually similar to a Souls-like game, but but not essentially having it to where it's like it's just ridiculously hard, unstaggering or unflinching enemies or anything like that. Is not there. You actually have knockbacks. You actually are able to hit and it affect how the enemies respond. You actually have takedowns and stuff like that. Very action oriented gameplay mechanics that actually make it far more engaging and fun than you would have from a Souls game, which essentially is just meant to make things far more difficult. As well as the aspect of it not copying Bayonetta, which I thought was a breath of fresh air because it's not a stylized action beat 'em up type deal, but instead, yes, it actually is a very strategical thinking type of a game, where it still has a parry system, yet it doesn't have a stamina bar. It's still like, again, you can do the takedowns, but you can time them correctly, as well as if you parry it a certain way, you can actually appear behind your enemy and attack them a certain way. These things have been talked about, jotted down by people who actually have been discussing the game accordingly, and honestly getting a response that actually deserves that. Like, yeah, I want to know how the game fucking plays, which is what would lead me to actually want to buy the game. Needless to say, from listening to the reviews and whatnot and seeing the game play itself, which honestly was also cool because, yeah, the E3 trailer actually showed gameplay. So now that we actually seen what gameplay is, it's like, oh yeah, this actually looks like what it is they presented, which you always gotta love. And yeah, I would like to buy the game. So that's cool. But again, it shouldn't be showcased that essentially Stellar Blade is like the greatest game of all time, but rather this game should be held up as a game that should be presented as, this is what your bare minimum should look like with these AAA titles that have buku amounts of money and ridiculous amounts of resources and people at their disposal. Well, not anymore because they keep firing everybody, but when they did, this is what your bare minimum should be. Because the fact that this is a company that made phone games attempting to get into the video game market, the console and PC market, if you will, this is the best that they can do. So your bare minimum should be their best. But right now, we're having it to where, for whatever reason, these lower tier studios are producing games that are basically blowing everybody away, despite the fact that these AAA studios they're making shit. So you have Baldur's Gate, you have Helldivers 2, now Stellar Blade, which essentially pre-orders are just going through the roof right now. It's disheartening that essentially people aren't coming to this conclusion and understanding that Yes, the character is attractive. That is a plus. But the discussion about what it is that's going on within the gaming industry should not focus on that. What they should focus on the fact is that we need to have these people understand this is what we've always wanted. This isn't new. This isn't just spring up on anybody. There's not a bunch of horny people asking to see horny shit. No, you have a track record of games that exist right now that were made specifically to just be fun, to be games that cater to a base, and then they fulfill that need perfectly. So much so that it spilled over into lapping up other people that essentially never would have even bothered with that showcase of a game in the first place if it wasn't for the fact that they could not get any enjoyment out of anything else that you currently have out. Do not see the problem. Baldur's Gate 3, considering how that game is and how it plays, I'm not someone who played Divinity 2. And it isn't a game that's appealing to me. But Baldur's Gate is connected to D&D, something that I know something about. The gameplay mechanics of Baldur's Gate 3 and how much I've seen people talk about it within the scope of what's going on in the video game industry, makes me want to get Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3 is not a AAA game, but it won Game of the fucking Year. Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 is a game that realistically is like $40. It's just a crazy ass, lose your goddamn mind playing with friends type of deal that isn't a fucking looter shooter live service type deal. Well, it's a live service game, but not in the sense of what it is that essentially the industry has been oversaturated with. But it just has a fun community, fun people, like fun concept, small whatever. But compared to the other games that have came out, or essentially compared to the big game that supposedly came out that just shit the bed, Suicide Squad 2, Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League, you see the huge difference in essentially quality, game mechanics, fun, or even all intrigue being showcased back to back. And that should be the main discussion within the wake of essentially the Gamergate 2 or Gamergate 2.0, however you want to phrase it, which awkwardly enough, I didn't know that essentially was kind of brought upon by the media at first. I thought that was something the community came up with. The media made that up first. It's like they know what they're doing. but still, what I'm getting at is because of the fact that Stellar Blade had a review being done by a French by the French IGN. Whatever. But the review itself, if you read it, then I would say I urge you to read it, but you don't really have to. It's not that big of a deal. It's like you can, but don't listen to people who essentially are getting the gist of it or like talking about the cliff notes. If they haven't read the whole thing, then they probably are going to be talking out of their ass. So just read it. Just go read it. It's not that big of a deal. It's an article. It's a game review. It's not long, but the main issue that I had with the article was the fact that that it was like essentially portraying that because the female character looks the way that she does, Eve, that this is something that's going to lead to like women hurting themselves or something even worse, self-deletion and whatnot. And that's fucking disgusting. That's an irreprehensible type of thing to say. Just because of an attractive character in a video game. It's not like this is the first fucking time this has ever happened in a video game, and it damn sure won't be the last. But again, if you dive deeper, you read the rest of the fucking article, then you would understand that essentially that the person generally did that as bait. They go in and they actually give a positive review to the game, which is so weird. But again, further proof that the original opening to this was just crazy stupid bait to get as many eyes as they want onto this article. And then essentially they gave a positive review, even stating that they're going to buy the game. So fucking crazy. But you see the the ridiculousness and the back and forth essentially just being, yeah, yeah, we want pretty girl, give her pretty girl. No, the ridiculousness is the fact that essentially IGN did what they did, and they like also I should state they released an apology towards this article, to which was incredibly half-assed and honestly super disingenuous because they didn't actually apologize, but more so doubled down, and it was more so like, well, I mean, if you think it won't do this, 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 and this to women, that's just you. Super disingenuous. It's fucking gross. But not only did they do that, but it's like the response of it from a majority of people within the community. I would say not people in the community, but more so just fucking people trying to get a buzz out of their YouTube videos and whatnot. Their response was just, "Oh, we got him, we got you. Look at them, they made an apology." And it's like, dude, read the apology. It's not a fucking apology. That's not an apology. Demand more from these people who are supposedly to be, who are supposed to be the video game journalists. Demand that they own up to their bullshit. Demand that Kotaku, IGN, Polygon, all these people, when they give these dumbass bullshit, stupid fucking takes on video games, that, you know what, we're not gonna take it. You need to demand something from these people, that they do better within the industry that they supposedly are, like, they're supposedly working for, right? There's like, if they're just gonna shill out whatever the fuck they want in order to sit there and push whatever agenda they want, stop reading their shit. Don't share the IGN article. Don't read the IGN article. Don't talk about a dumbass take. Ignore it. Ignore it and talk about how Stellar Blade has an attractive female character and the gameplay does this, 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 this. And when you have a discussion over the game, don't sit there and talk about how pretty the main character is, but talk about how the gameplay, the fluid motion, the weight of the sword feels, the different character customizations, the cool factors that they have, the actual good graphics, despite the company itself not being of a AAA stature. Shit like that. The actual decorum and essentially review that those companies are supposed to give. Let the community give that on their own. Essentially, they're thus removing the need of Kotaku, IGN, and fucking Polygon, and all those other stupid video game sites and things like that. And as well as that circumvents to the idea of getting rid of companies like Sweet Baby Inc. and whatnot, trying to go back to the whole Gamergate thing, if you will, but get rid of those companies because of the fact that you would see them pushing the agenda that essentially the gaming journalists are also trying to push. And then the companies noticing and understanding that what it is that these people are talking about and what it is that they're gaining and what it is that these other companies are gaining in revenue are completely opposite. And it's like, hey, they don't want this woke bullshit that we hired you consultants to bring into our games. They don't want that. So guess what? We won't hire you no more. You're no longer infecting the video game industry, making shit worse. What they actually want is this simplistic shit. But in order to make more money than what it is that they already have that's simplistic, hey, much better stories, much better graphic, far more content. Hey, less fucking microtransactions. For the love of God, get rid of microtransactions. I understand the power of the almighty dollar, but dude, you don't need that many. DLCs that are actually worthwhile, where it's like you include extra stages or some content that's just worth the damn. Jesus Christ. I bought every DLC for Ace Combat 7, and I never looked back, and I have no problem with that whatsoever. Have you seen the Remind DLC to Kingdom Hearts 3? Kingdom Hearts 3 is not that good of a game, but the DLC, that's the kind of DLC that you want from a game. But again, these are the things that essentially these people need to focus on. This is what they need to talk about. This is what needs to be said. Yes, you can praise the game for having I'm not saying you don't praise the game for having a female character. No, by all means do that. But praise the game for being a good game as well. when people destroyed Saints Row 2, I mean, not Saints Row 2, but the Saints Row remake, the game is a game where you're able to customize your character. It's just that the front runner character that they kept showcasing is what they intended for the main character to look like, obviously. But the game itself was horrible. It was a terrible piece of shit, and it was destroyed thusly. The same thing happened with Forspoken. People dissected the dialogue, they talked about the gameplay, they talked about how it was just too much going on, slow response concepts, bad clippy graphics in certain areas, bland open world and whatnot. They tore it down to its base level because it was bad. And so when you have games that essentially are good, it just a standard of quality that you would want to see, whether it be an okay story and likable characters, fun design, colorful aesthetics, actually good looking, attractive characters that you want to play with and you want to see them succeed, thus pushing you to play the game even more. That is the bare minimum. That is the standard that you should hold all games according. And because of that, it should go without saying that when you see an attractive character in a video game, that's not the only thing that you fucking hyper emphasize on, but that is the thing that you look at and go, yep, pretty. All right. Aside from that, now let's talk about the game. And so it's like, it's it's crazy because it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, this is actually something that has happened in damn near all media. Um, and it's like even I've talked about this with an anime, as it's like even though it's a very Japanese oriented thing, anime has an issue of essentially a stagnation problem. And as soon as it gets something to where it's like, yo, it pops off at that niche little thing becomes a little bit too popular, it just pops off, and then then like the overall genre itself of anime just gets oversaturated with that niche little genre, the niche little thing that it had. You could say that about the isekai genre, which essentially stemmed from, there's been plenty of anime before they even came up with the term of isekai being a genre in itself. There have been plenty of them that delve with the idea of isekai, but it wasn't a common thing to where it was like, it was so common that they gave it its own genre name. It's just that it was just a concept. Uh, Yet now it's like you're oversaturated. Same thing with fucking harems. Essentially, isekai was born from the overabundance of harems, ironically. But like even then, there's like another example, because I just feel like giving out examples. Why not? I give giving out examples. Another thing would essentially be the shonen, and like how easy you can look at a shonen and essentially, like, word for word, like straight out the book, page for page, you'll look at something and you'll go, wow, you're about to have one main character with two side characters that join up in the team, with a teacher that's like an overpowered whatever, and essentially a bad guy that pops up near the beginning that keeps getting away until you have like some type of final confrontation at the end, where supposedly the main dude either gets them to succumb to their evil ways and want to be a good guy again, or they just wind up killing them with that person being like, please forgive me, and they do like some self-sacrifice kind of bullshit or whatever. And it's predictable garbage, but that's just what that industry has become, because that's their standard. But they have no reason to elevate it anymore. They're currently winning, so there's no need to change. Yet, the thing that's actually different, that actually breaks the mold as far as the creativity, storytelling, and overall character aesthetic, is considered the most popular thing. I'm talking about One Piece, obviously. Yet, how many fucking animes have you seen that have copied One Piece? Everything's copying Dragon Ball Z currently, but how many things have you seen copy One Piece? Fuck, Dragon Ball Super is copying Naruto, which copied Dragon Ball Z. Fucking retarded. But yeah, there's not any big, expansive world building hoopa joops anime out there like One Piece, but that that's the above and beyond series. It's not the standard. The standard is basically doing what Naruto did. Gross. And but it's like, getting back to the gaming thing, but it's like, the argument and then like the way to defeat these people who are essentially against and are trying to constantly ruin what the video game industry is to not engage with just generally, you don't want to see a hot chick or you trying to make this woke and whatnot. No, the argument is that I just want games to be good again. They're not good. These games are not good. They're not fun. They're not good. The characters aren't attractive. These are all problems. They're problems. It's not a passing fancy. It's not a interest that just appeared out of nowhere. And it's like, no, video games have always been held to this standard, and somewhere along the line, someone dropped the fucking bar, and I just want to pull it back up. That's it. So, by all means, I do still say support Stellar Blade. Yeah, definitely support it. I do want to buy that game and I would like to play it. The fact that essentially, yeah, you ain't got a stamina bar, but it does the soul-like fighting, but it doesn't have just the ridiculousness of being difficult. That's a huge plus for me because I don't like the way how the Souls games play. I know, but I don't like that. I don't like the stamina bar. I don't like I just keep hitting you, but it doesn't do anything, and I have to time my dodge correctly. I don't like that. But what they added in Stellar Blade, I actually want to play a game like that. Like, I actually enjoy action games that are associated and oriented like that. So, again, should be fun. But yeah, it was like you show your support by actually backing and buying and continue to want games that are of this nature that fit this motif despite what the mob says. And then you sit there and you shut up the mob by letting them know that, either just generally ignoring their stupidity or just essentially battling their stupidity with nothing but hardcore facts to just get more intelligent people on your side. That speak volumes to the people who are on your side already, but are just not engaging intelligently. That's all I wanted to say. So yeah, just go play the demo. Go play the demo, and then tell people what you thought about the demo outside of the tits. That's it. That's it. That's yeah. That's it. Yeah, I probably should have said that. That would have saved 20. That would have saved you 27 minutes. Oh well.